You see this individual running for his life.
This looks like a scene straight out of a movie.
March 19th, 2021, Coweta County, Georgia. A quiet Friday is about to turn into mayhem.
We're in rural Georgia. A young man walks up to a home. It looks like maybe he lives there.
But things quickly turn violent.
You see this individual running for his life as he comes out of the house, and another individual chasing after him with a gun.
The men fire at each other repeatedly.
This is so chaotic. We have no idea why these two people are trying to kill each other.
My initial impression is something went on inside, maybe a drug deal gone bad, some type of assault, and this is the aftermath of that.
This looks like a scene straight out of a movie. They seem really desperate to survive. They're dodging each other. They're really both afraid. They're trying to figure out the best way for them to stay alive in this situation.
The really scary thing about this ordeal is, first off, who else is inside that home that this individual is now firing into? Secondly, who is in that surrounding community? You have other families, potentially young children. You can see that they're not really looking where they're shooting. They're just firing aimlessly.
The gunfire finally dies down when the older man escapes into the house to dial 911. Authorities quickly respond and arrest 26-year-old Mario Paul Clark.
Shockingly, later we find out that this combo of individuals is actually father and son.
It all began when Mario showed up at his dad's house armed, and when he refused to relinquish the gun, his father got his own pistol. Video of the shocking father-son shootout quickly hits the news.
It was all caught on the family's home security camera.
The dad saw the imprint of the gun in the son's clothing. He was trying to disarm his son.
The video goes viral, and viewers are stunned.
The father returned fire in an obvious fight for his life.
Mario is charged with aggravated assault and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime.
The son is clearly the aggressor. He is there on a mission. And the father, he's trying to stand his ground and likely thinking, I don't want to hurt my son, but I also don't want anyone else in this house to be hurt, and I don't want to die.
His dad makes arrangements for him to enter a mental health facility rather than serve time behind bars. It's a sobering end to a shocking family dispute.
All families have conflict, but most families don't have shootouts.
All criminals have foul intentions, but as you'll see in these next unbelievable viral videos, not all criminals have smarts.
Talk about a plan going up in flames.
His MO is that he's just not very good at it.
Crime doesn't always pay, especially if you're bad at it.
I think that we watch a lot of heist movies and we think of criminals as being super intelligent. But honestly, I believe 99% of them are pretty dumb.
It's 4 a.m. at a Miami iPhone repair store when a robber wearing a curious disguise smashes a counter.
And what could go wrong? I mean, I have a box protecting my identity.
But the boxed thief has not thought this through.
He didn't even try to secure the box to his hair and on anything.
It even splashes the security camera. And then
Talk about a plan going up in flames.
I'm like, they're so bad at being criminals, but then I'm also like, are they okay?
when the surveillance footage hits social media, it gets thousands of views.
Two men were caught on camera setting fire to his business and themselves.
And these guys are not likely to try this again.
Karma came back to bite them. They ended up with pretty severe burns, which is gonna be a lifetime of problems.
In China, a surveillance camera shows two men nonchalantly walk up to a building with bricks in their hands. But when they throw them, things backfire horribly.
I viscerally felt the brick the moment it hit.
He was completely knocked out, and now his friend has to think, well, do I leave my friend here and possibly he turns me in, or do I have to drag him so we can both get to safety. A hit like that, he could have a concussion, he could have actual permanent brain damage.
Footage of the brick fail makes international headlines, and the video gets 300,000 views.
Cops in China say 2 bumbling burglars did their jobs for them.
And coming up next, more bad guys who take the definition of dumb criminal to a whole new level.
He's just not very good at it.
Criminals may know what they want, but they don't necessarily think their wrongdoing through. In Texas, it's a viral ATM fail. 2 men try to take an ATM out of a courthouse.
If I was gonna steal an ATM, I would think go to a convenience store or go to somewhere that is not a courthouse. It's clearly amateur hour. He's locked himself out of the car. So he's like trying to tie this rope around the ATM, and then he can't get back in the vehicle, so then he just jumps into the bed of the pickup.
They get away with part of the ATM, but no cash.
These guys, I think, should have spent a few more months at the drawing board because I would give their preparation, planning, and execution Fs across the board.
The bumbling burglars make international news, and they go viral. Making their crime even more pathetic, they leave DNA evidence behind, which leads police to break up an organized crime ring.
The group hit up county buildings 6 times in 6 weeks, causing more than $200,000 in damage.
In Atlanta, customers at a nail salon have 0 tolerance for dumb criminals.
It's the middle of the day. There are people waiting to get their nails done. You can see the women are chatting, and then out of nowhere, this guy comes in.
The unwelcome patron appears to be armed.
There was an initial moment of shock of what's happening.
But nobody budges.
This is the quintessential example of unbothered. I can't tell if they're just thinking, I've been in Atlanta long enough to know when there's really a gun in a plastic bag and that doesn't look like it.
Everybody get out! Get out of the money! It's got the money! Get out of the money! Get out!
The manager even casually answers the phone, as if the robber isn't there.
Something tells me it was the phone call that made the robber realize this might not be in the cards for me.
He tried everything he could to make these people react.
Give me the money! Where's the money? Everybody give me everything! Where's the money?
There was something about this guy that just did not give off hardened criminal.
Deflated, the robber turns and walks out the door.
He had to just walk out of the salon empty-handed.
The only person who was robbed was him of his dignity.
The video explodes on social media with millions of views.
Police in Atlanta are looking for a robbery suspect, and his MO is that he's just not very good at it.
2 weeks later, police arrest Stefan Harper, charging him with robbery.
Where's the money?
I know the internet has been around for a long time, and it's hard to say what the best videos on the internet are, but this might take the cake.
Everybody get out! Get out of the money! It's got the money!
Committing a crime in a place where surveillance cameras are bound to record you isn't wise either.
Shocking attempted kidnapping.
Force her towards the store's exit, like something out of a movie.
January 17th, 2023, Bartlesville, Oklahoma. It happens in broad daylight.
Don't assume because you're in a public place or a well-lit area that you're immune to this type of attack.
Security cameras capture a man approaching an employee.
This is a woman who's working at a hardware store.
At first, she thinks he's a customer, but things quickly turn violent.
He's trying to move her.
This was a premeditated attack.
She's locking her legs, she's holding her arms up, and he's pushing her, and her feet are sliding.
This is horrifying. The man is trying to force her towards an exit.
You got to think about the type of mindset of an individual to do something like this, to think they're going to take someone against their will, and God knows what their intentions are if they're successful in doing so.
But she fights back, escaping just in time.
She caught a co-worker's attention. He was able to come and help her.
What you can't hear on this tape is this woman crying out for help. Thankfully, another employee hears her cries for help and was able to scare the guy away.
Ominously, police say the kidnapper planned to drag her into an SUV parked outside.
This offender strategically placed their vehicle at a location outside the outdoor area of this hardware store so that they could push this employee out of the store and immediately into their vehicle.
Before police can make it to the scene, the suspect races out an emergency exit door, then flees in the red SUV. The victim, who is unharmed, has no idea who the man is or why he was trying to abduct her, and police are stunned by the brazen attack.
You run across something like that and you're shocked and you're really surprised.
I've been here 10 years and this is my first encounter with an actual abduction or kidnapping from a place of employment.
If she had gotten into that vehicle, this could have been a really bad situation.
Police used surveillance footage and Facebook to identify the man, 39-year-old Quincy Wilson. The Jeep he fled in is located in an alley with the license plate missing. Inside, they find the clothes he was wearing in the video.
At this time, we have an active warrant for Mr. Wilson for attempted kidnapping.
Just 1 hour after they hold a press conference, police arrest Wilson at his home in Tulsa, 45 miles from the hardware store.
When you have something of this caliber, you really want a resolution. You want somebody in custody. You want just, to let the public know that this person's in custody and they don't have anything to worry about.
Wilson is charged with attempted kidnapping. He never shares his intentions with police.
We really don't know the motive. Could it have been sexual in nature? Could it have been part of a larger organization? We may never know.
The frightening story tops the news.
The suspect is in custody.
They say that the suspect parked his SUV here in the secluded loading area right next to an exit, and they believe that this was proof that it was planned in advance.
The shocking video goes viral, making people fear that they aren't really safe anywhere.
You don't think when you're at work, especially at a larger retail store or a larger hardware store, that something like this is going to happen.
And it's a chilling reminder to never let your guard down.
No matter where you are, is to be conscious of your surroundings, be cognizant of the people you're interacting with, and make sure that if something like this happens, you do whatever you can, anything in your power, refuse going with them. You never want to go to a secondary location.
This could happen any city, any store, any time of day.
Coming up next, shocking video of a man who fights back against criminals who steal at all times of day.
Put down! Put down! Down!
He knows that there's trouble.
No! Put it down! Put it down!
2021, Seattle, Washington. For years, thieves have been stealing from the garage and parking lot at Gerard Ty's apartment building. And he's fed up.
It was happening so frequently, I just felt so violated.
Determined to stop them, he sets up security cameras.
There's no pass-through, so if they're going into my parking garage or parking lot, there's one way in and one way out. I have 3 cameras set up. Each camera has a different notification on my phone. That will wake me up and get me looking to see if someone's in the area.
Sometimes Gerard yells at the intruders to scare them off.
Hey! Get there!
Get out of there! What's wrong with you?
You wanna try getting in the car again? No, that's not your car!
Other times, he's forced to come outside half-dressed.
You come down here in my underwear because you're shooting around in my garage.
Or prepared to fight.
Yeah! Stop! Huh? Huh? What are you doing? Huh? Huh? Come on!
Frustrated, Gerard starts posting his videos online. He also puts up a sign, warning, trespassers risk serious bodily injury. And these criminals quickly find out that he is not playing around.
Put it down! Put it down now! Put the thing down!
Gerard is wielding a gun. He's a legal gun owner, but his intention is only to frighten the criminals.
I'm not gonna go down there and just start shooting. I've never discharged my weapon at anybody, towards anybody, ever. They drove up in a U-Haul with the sole intent of stealing a motorcycle. I knew that there was more than one person. If there's only one person, I'll go with a bat. If there's more than one person, I will go with a gun. People ask me, it's like, God, I can't believe you went down there in your underwear. That was so funny. There's nothing funny about it. I was so scared, and I knew the gun I went down there with, if I would have shot somebody, would have killed them.
Word about Gerard's vigilante action soon gets around. But instead of scaring them, the bold criminals keep coming.
You can tell the second the thief realized where the camera was, because then he tries to jump out of frame.
Gerard heads down to investigate, but this isn't business as usual.
There's another person in this video. This homeowner may not exactly know what he's walking into, but there's trouble.
He could be armed. It could have gone a lot of negative ways. The homeowner comes in really hot and fired up.
The thieves try to make a break for it.
No!
And whatever their intentions are, they play nonchalant.
I don't know what you were trying to do. I don't give a dude.
The person who is inside the garage says, I'm not really doing anything.
And then that's when you hear me say, you know, I got you on my camera.
No, yeah, you were. I got you on my camera.
They pulled up in a nice car, and there were 3 people total, 1 in the back seat, 2 in the front. Then you start to hear this pounding sound, and that's me kicking the car. The passenger attempted to open the door, and I kicked it closed. He tried to open it again, and I kicked it closed again. And by the time they left, the passenger side of the car was dented. Big, huge dents in the door.
Gerard has once again succeeded in stopping crime in its tracks. And the internet can't get enough of his videos.
YouTube, one of the videos went viral and got over 6 million views in a couple of weeks. Some of the comments are a little disturbing, like, oh, this is staged. Well, it's not staged. And if you knew what was going through my mind at the time that I'm confronting these people, it's very scary. It's just very, very frightening.
And whether or not they agree with his tactics, Gerard's neighbors are grateful for his eye-opening gotcha videos.
I showed the resident manager, I was like, look at this, there's another one, here's another one. The resident manager had said, gosh, I can't believe this is starting to happen. And I was like, I don't think it's just starting to happen. I think that it's always been happening.
And despite the inherent danger it puts him in, Gerard says he will keep fighting the criminals and filming them.
Police have told me when they've come out, you know, we can't tell you what to do, we can't tell you what not to do, but the camera's gonna be your ally, or it's going to be your downfall.
Put it down! Put it down now!
A chilling attack.
This video is horrific.
This is a matter of life and death.
Cameras right here. Catch every terrifying moment.
You know this situation's about to get really bad.
October 15th, 2020, Seattle, Washington. Police get a call about a violent man making threats with a hammer at a homeless camp. Officer Caleb Parmesan is first on the scene, but the man is already on the run.
All right, he's gonna be in the alley.
This officer is communicating over the radio that there's an individual, maybe about 100 feet ahead.
And now he's wielding a different and dangerous weapon.
He's just walking down the alley southbound with the stick on fire, and it is very on fire. Hey, Seattle police, stop!
This suspect is being defiant. He's non-compliant.
You can see that this suspect is not listening, has no intentions of stopping at this point.
Seattle police, stop, dude!
When the officer starts to engage with him, the offender turns his sights on the police officer himself. Once he makes a beeline for the officer's vehicle, you know this situation's about to get really bad.
There is absolutely nothing stopping this officer from getting burned because the driver's side window is down.
There probably wasn't 1 second where this officer thought that this individual was going to turn around and throw this flaming piece of wood inside the patrol vehicle.
Horrifyingly, the flaming weapon hits the officer in the thigh. Terrified he will be burned alive, the officer backs up with the flaming stick still in his car and opens fire.
This officer absolutely had the right to use lethal force in this situation. There's no doubt that that piece of firewood could have seriously injured or even killed this officer.
The gunshots miss the suspect and he quickly disappears. As his burning patrol car rolls backwards, the officer manages to escape out the passenger door and frantically plead for help.
Shots fired, through the stick at me.
This officer escaped just in time. Thankfully, he was able to make it out alive.
And in a situation like this, seconds can be the difference between life and death.
When other officers arrive, they chase the suspect into a nearby parking garage using a taser to arrest him.
The patrol car goes up in flames and is a complete loss.
The fiery encounter tops the news.
The moment when a man attacked a Seattle police officer.
This Seattle police car torched and completely destroyed.
The officer's body cam video goes viral with more than 1 million views.
Stop, dude!
I cannot imagine being in a situation like that. And anyone listening to the radio that day, I can only imagine that their hearts may have dropped when they heard this. This could have been a horrific situation.
The suspect is identified as 37-year-old Brian Joseph Leal. He pleads guilty to assault with a deadly weapon and arson. He is sentenced to 6 years in prison.
We later learned that this individual stated he wanted to die at the hands of the officers, a suicide by cop.
Officer Parmesan suffers non-life-threatening burns to his leg and both hands, but he's grateful he survived.
This could have been a lot worse. If he got stuck in that vehicle, he could have lost his life.
Having a piece of lumber that's on fire coming at you is not something you hear about every day. This is one brave officer.
Seattle police, stop, dude!
Something else you don't hear about every day is the wildly out-of-control airplane rage in these next viral videos.
Sit down! Sit down!
It's just so gruesome.
With smaller seats and fewer amenities, airplane meltdowns are increasingly common. And in the air, rage can boil over in an instant.
You just don't know what's going to happen.
On this flight to San Diego, in the midst of the pandemic, everyone is on edge. The plane is descending when a passenger refuses to buckle her seatbelt or secure her mask.
Sit down! Don't you dare! Don't you dare!
You don't really expect what happens next.
We are gonna kill you!
The woman violently punches a flight attendant, drawing blood.
Almost as like watching a horror movie where it's fake blood, but this is real life.
Another passenger jumps in to calm things down.
Don't you dare! Don't you dare touch a flight attendant like that!
She came at her first.
Sit down!
This male passenger jumped immediately into action and was able to de-escalate the situation, which really shocked me in a good way.
When the plane lands, 29-year-old Viviana Quinones is arrested for interfering with flight attendant directions. The traumatized attendant is badly bruised and requires stitches. Video of the attack in the air makes news.
A woman from Sacramento is accused of punching a flight attendant in the face, knocking out 2 of her teeth.
And a viral splash. Quinones is sentenced to 15 months and ordered to pay more than $30,000 in fines and restitution.
We are gonna sue you!
And coming up, you won't believe the radical measures it takes to contain this unruly passenger. You never know who is going to lose their cool when you're in the air.
No goddamn idea what's coming for you!
On this flight to Miami, an inebriated young man comes unhinged.
My parents are worth goddamn dollars!
A lot of people have their cell phones out, they're recording him.
You guys suck!
The man yells at other passengers.
Grandpa is the most wholesome person.
He is literally the really annoying, obnoxious, drunk guy on the plane.
And he has already groped 2 female flight attendants.
He's touched one of the flight attendants' backsides, which is a big no-no.
All communication are against the truth. Both of you suck.
And when told back off, he kind of doesn't do that at all.
You have no goddamn idea what's coming for you.
Things are only getting more and more extreme.
When a flight attendant tries to intervene, the situation explodes. But this quick-thinking employee finds a creative way to get control. Now, the man is literally duct taped to his seat.
There's a lot of duct tape in this situation.
Wrapped from head to toe, looking like a mummy, unable to even so much as lift a pinky finger.
The goal is to get on the ground as safely as you can without anyone being injured, including this person.
When the plane lands, 22-year-old Maxwell Berry is arrested on charges of assault. Video of the duct tape ordeal quickly goes viral and hits the news.
This wild video, an unruly passenger throwing punches.
And the flight attendant tells reporters he's glad the tape restraint worked.
It worked perfectly and no one got hurt because of how we did what we did.
Berry is sentenced to 60 days, ordered to pay $4,000 in fines, and gets 1 year of supervised release. But his drunk rant is tame compared to the terror another airline passenger unleashes in this next viral video.
Where's Homeland Security? Pull the gun!
A wild scene on a plane.
This situation takes a terrifying turn.
I will kill everybody on this plane!
March 23rd, 2023. A passenger on a flight from LA to Boston makes terrifying threats.
I will kill every man on this plane!
Lisa Olson is traveling home with her husband and daughter.
We were about 45 minutes from landing, and we heard this guy in back of us talking loudly.
Point the gun at me so I can show everybody!
His voice was just getting louder and louder.
Wherever in my body!
Lisa and her husband pull out their phones to start recording.
And then I will kill every man on this plane!
No one knows what this man is capable of because he's making threats that are life or death.
Where's Homeland Security? Pull the gun, and I will kill every man on this plane.
He was screaming, saying, I'm gonna kill every man on the plane.
You're not gonna try and stop me, huh? You're gonna see them shoot me down.
A lot of the other people around him were kind of just trying to be invisible. So at this point, my daughter's crying. She's sitting next to the window and just sobbing. She thought we were going down.
Step away from me. I don't care if I'm scared of you.
When a flight attendant tries to reason with the
I
man,
don't care.
he only gets more agitated.
They're gonna have to shoot me down today. Remember that. Where are they diverting us? Because wherever it is, there's gonna be a bloodbath.
Is he really trying to take this plane down right now?
Well, tell them to bring SWAT to shoot me down, because they're gonna have to shoot me down today.
The flight attendants try to come up with a game plan.
They were trying to prevent, anything from getting down to the cockpit. You can tell that they were panicked. They don't have control over the situation.
You can all run away if you want. If you're men, you can run. I won't kill you. I'm Balthazar.
This situation takes a terrifying turn.
I'm taking over this plane.
Dude, I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you.
The man is brandishing a sharp object.
I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now. Okay, yeah, he can't get by that.
And now he's trying to hurt people.
I just didn't grab him down.
Multiple men jumped up from their seats, a line of people just chasing him. He had the weapon and attempted to stab the flight attendant in the neck 3 times. And there were probably 5 men that were holding him down because at that point he was still screaming and out of control.
Someone manages to zip tie him, but he breaks through one tie after another. Passengers frantically search for other restraints.
When they ran out of zip ties, people were passing their belts up.
The chaotic scene goes on for 30 excruciating minutes until the plane lands in Boston. Massachusetts State Police arrest 33-year-old Francisco Torres and charge him with attempted interference with flight crew members using a dangerous weapon. When they're safely on the ground, Lisa learns something horrifying. The man also tried to open one of the plane's doors.
Who knows what would have happened if he was able to get the door open.
Lisa shares her video with the news.
Wild scene on a plane heading to Boston. Massachusetts man goes on a rampage during a cross-country flight.
And the story goes viral overnight.
My phone was just blowing up. I had the FBI calling me, and the news stations were in my driveway.
It turns out that Torres has a disturbing history of violence. A judge later deems him not competent to stand trial and orders him to undergo mental health treatment. Lisa and her family are traumatized.
Because it was surreal during the whole thing, and then you're like, oh wait, did this really happen? And I think that's just the emotional part.
But they're determined not to let the ordeal change them.
My husband got on a flight the next morning. My daughter went to school the next morning, and I went to work the next morning.
And Lisa is grateful to all the passengers who stepped in to avert disaster.
People getting up and doing something about the situation, it was amazing.
Coming up next, a crime-fighting superhero unlike any you've seen before.
Easter Bunny, I got it all, bro.
But is he the real deal?
Cell phone video capturing a brawl.
Why is this Easter Bunny wailing on people?
Easter Bunny, I got it all, bro.
Man dressed in the furry costume, hopping into action to break up a fight.
You can't believe what you're seeing.
Hey, Easter Bunny!
April 21st, 2019, Orlando, Florida. A man goes all out to celebrate Easter.
He thought it would be fun to get dressed up as an Easter Bunny on Easter weekend and go bar hopping.
And in his mind, a bunny is some kind of superhero.
We see a woman and a man in a fight, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this white bunny comes in to save the day.
I got it all, bro.
He got in there and he started throwing punches.
We have a hero bunny coming to save the damsel in distress. We want to know who is in the bunny costume.
Whoever he is, when police arrive, they want the crime-fighting bunny to step aside.
Over with, so stop.
They pull up on the scene and they see the Easter Bunny in a fight with two people. They warn him that if they saw him doing something like this again, he would get arrested.
The bunny doesn't seem too bothered. He's too busy posing for pictures.
Because, you know, how often do you get to be a hero?
Video of the bunny saving the day quickly goes viral.
This is one of those videos that goes viral for all the right reasons. It's shocking, it's funny, you can't believe what you're seeing.
And the Orlando Easter Bunny wastes no time capitalizing on his 15 minutes of fame.
It seems that this bunny really, really liked the attention because right after this goes viral, he wants to keep the momentum going. He creates a social media account as the bunny, showing what the bunny is up to.
The man behind the suit turns out to be 20-year-old Antoine McDonald. He nicknames himself Bad Bunny and is soon all over the news.
His paws of fury. A man dressed in the furry costume hopping into action to break up a fight.
He starts doing interviews, showing his real face.
With me trying to break up the fight, it led him to get on top of her and hit her. So then I had to try different methods, basically, to break up the fight, which actually worked.
But for Bad Bunny, the publicity is not a wise move.
A lot of people were watching, including some in law enforcement who had been looking for him. It turns out that he was wanted in multiple states for a variety of offenses.
He's a person of interest in Florida for a 2019 carjacking and 2 armed robberies. He also has an outstanding warrant in New Jersey for car burglary.
If you did something and the police issue a warrant for your arrest, just because it was a few years ago, it doesn't like expire. They're still looking for you. And that's exactly what happened here.
Some of Bad Bunny's fans argue that his past shouldn't matter because now he's a hero. Others blast him for hiding from the law.
There are people who are asking, is he a hero or did he actually turn out to be a bad guy? He stepped in to protect a woman. That is a great thing.
Realizing he has dug himself into a precarious hole, McDonald goes on the lam. It works for 9 months until police
Holly Bristow joining us live here.
And the news catch up to him in January 2020.
Well, Bad Bunny was arrested, accused of, well, being a bad bunny for leaving the scene of a crash.
It happens near Orlando after McDonald loses control of a motorcycle, slams into someone's carport, then flees. Police find him less than a mile away, still dressed in his favorite outfit, which they promptly order him to take off.
As he stands up, his bunny suit falls down, and there's Antoine McDonald in his underwear.
Not only now has the law caught up with him, but he also has to shed his bunny identity that he has clung to for all this time. He's forced to take off the bunny costume and to leave the bunny behind forever.
Once in custody, McDonald seems annoyed that the officers don't know who he is.
Do your research, Orlando Easter Bunny.
Clearly, this bunny is delusional. He thinks he's famous.
Do your research, Orlando Easter Bunny.
He thinks he is untouchable because he intervened in one fight.
He's currently behind bars in Florida awaiting sentencing. And given that his bunny antics landed him in jail, his heroics backfired badly.
Knowing that police are looking for him. Maybe he isn't the sharpest tool in the shed.
The night was thick, suffocating, the kind that presses down on your chest and leaves a chill crawling up your spine. Somewhere on the outskirts of Bakersfield, a light flickered in a lone house, its hum drowned by the whispering wind slicing through cracked window panes. Inside, shadows danced across the walls, silhouettes of furniture frozen in a room that had not known life in years. Police reports would later describe it as eerily quiet, a silence that spoke louder than any scream. It was January 12th, 1988, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Emily Sanderson, 17, had vanished without a trace, leaving only a half-empty cup of tea on the kitchen counter, steam still curling upwards as if time itself had paused. Her parents, frantic, called friends, neighbors, anyone who might know her whereabouts. But the night swallowed their cries, leaving nothing but questions. By morning, the local news ran short bulletins. Teenager missing. Last seen leaving school. Nothing remarkable, nothing unusual. But those who lived near the Sanderson home whispered differently. They spoke of strange headlights on the empty street, an unfamiliar van idling near the corner, and the feeling of eyes watching from the darkened alleys. Witnesses came forward, some shaking, some defiant, but nothing concrete emerged. The investigation began like most. Frantic, chaotic, a storm of leads, all dissolving into dead ends. Officers scoured the neighborhood, checked phone records, interviewed classmates, every detail scrutinized, every alibi dissected, but Emily had simply evaporated. It was as if the night itself had swallowed her whole. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months, yet the case remained frozen, a cold case long before the term became common parlance. Bakersfield adjusted. Life pressed forward, but the shadow lingered. Grocery store clerks remembered the girl's smile, the way she had laughed with friends on Fridays, the notebook she carried everywhere, its pages filled with doodles, secrets, dreams. Friends recounted casual conversations, small grievances, teenage whims that now took on eerie significance. Every memory reframed by the absence that refused to fade. Detectives followed every thread, no matter how fragile. A reported sighting near the outskirts of town led to a deserted storage shed, dust motes dancing in the shafts of sunlight cutting through broken slats, but nothing more. A neighbor swore they saw a woman matching Emily's description walking along Highway 99 late one evening, the wind lifting her hair like a banner of loss. But the report went cold as no records or surveillance corroborated the claim. Each new lead became a ripple in the stagnant pond of the investigation, stirring hope and disappointment in equal measure. Police kept files thick with scribbled notes, photographs, phone logs, maps marked with circles, and arrows pointing nowhere. A strange letter arrived at the station months later, postmarked from a nearby town, claiming knowledge of Emily's fate, but its handwriting was indecipherable. The paper soaked through with an unknown liquid, and it too vanished into the archives. Community meetings were held. Volunteers joined search parties in fields blanketed by winter frost, calling her name into the empty horizon, but the only reply was the echo of their own voices, bouncing off hills and decayed barns. There was talk of strangers, rumors whispered in dimly lit diners, theories hatched over coffee and cigarette smoke, a web of speculation that bound the town together in fear and uncertainty. And then came the discovery of the diary, tucked beneath floorboards in her bedroom, a revelation that chilled every officer who touched it. Pages filled with teenage angst turned into something darker. Mentions of someone following her home, a feeling of being watched in the park where she jogged, vague notes about arguments she had witnessed or overheard. Names were scribbled, but scratched out so aggressively it was impossible to discern them. Yet a pattern emerged, subtle but undeniable, a sense of someone encroaching upon her life, someone ordinary, someone terrifyingly close. The diary did not give answers. It raised more questions, each line a needle in the skin of collective unease. Investigators pored over it, late nights turning into early mornings, every word examined for meaning, for hidden threats, for a clue to the identity of the person who had obliterated Emily's presence from the world. Evidence collected at the scene, fingerprints, hair samples, footprints pressed into the carpet, yielded nothing. The technology of the late 80s could not reveal what the modern era would later expose. For years, the case sat in cold storage, a file in a drawer labeled with her name, gathering dust, growing colder with every passing year. The Sanderson family aged under the weight of unanswered questions, the mother's hair turning prematurely white, the father's shoulders slumping under a burden invisible yet palpable. Emily's friends moved on, yet never fully, their lives haunted by her absence, dreams punctured by the same relentless question, why? And somewhere in the town, the person responsible, if person there was, continued a life unremarkable to the world, ordinary by day, a ghost of terror by night. But as decades passed, the world changed. DNA analysis became precise, databases interconnected, a web of information spinning across states and counties, linking strands of evidence previously isolated, and the dormant case file began to stir. New detectives inherited old files, piecing together fragments that had seemed meaningless. Technology breathed life into the dead trail of clues, dusting fingerprints and hair samples with digital light, revealing secrets invisible to eyes of 1988. Then came the first break, subtle at first, a match buried in a database under a slightly misspelled name. Officers leaned forward over screens, breath caught in throats as hope mingled with disbelief. Could it be? The first step toward answers after 30 years felt like stepping into a dream where terror and relief intertwined. Surveillance footage, re-examined with modern algorithms, revealed a shadow moving in a grainy clip, inconspicuous at first, but unmistakable once magnified, a figure bending down to retrieve something from the ground, a movement matching witness descriptions from decades prior. Patterns emerged where once there had been only chaos, threads connecting locations, times, and people that had seemed unrelated. Tips flooded in, some credible, some wild, but every one examined under the lens of renewed vigor. And then came the arrest, abrupt, shocking, sending tremors through the community that had long since buried the horror beneath layers of normalcy. A man, living quietly, blending seamlessly into the fabric of Bakersfield society, was led away in handcuffs, the weight of decades pressing on his shoulders. The town exhaled collectively, yet relief was tempered by the knowledge of what had been lost, of the years stolen from a girl who would never return. And in the quiet corners of homes and hearts, memories lingered, the diary's pages, the empty cup of tea, the fleeting glimpses of a girl running through shadows, reminders that even when justice arrives, it cannot fully erase the chill, the void, the echo of a life interrupted. The courtroom was silent, every eye locked on the man who had lived in the shadows for decades, his expression unreadable, a mask of ordinariness betraying nothing of the storm within. Outside, the town buzzed with whispers, neighbors exchanging hurried glances, the word cold case slipping from lips like a curse and a relief all at once. Media vans lined the streets, cameras swiveling, lights cutting through the pale morning sun, capturing every fleeting reaction, every twitch of a jaw, every tremble in a hand. Inside, the air was heavy with anticipation, tension coiling like a live wire, ready to snap. Families who had long ago tucked away grief found it resurfacing in sharp waves, memories of the missing girl crashing against the walls of their minds. Emily Sanderson's mother gripped the edges of a pew until her knuckles whitened, the years of worry and unanswered questions etching themselves into the lines of her face, her eyes fixed on the figure at the center of it all. The trial was a spectacle of revelation, each witness called, each piece of evidence presented, and with each new detail, the room seemed to shrink, the weight of decades of fear pressing down. Detectives recounted the earliest moments, the frantic searches, the vanishing footprints, the diary filled with veiled warnings, and the crowd hung on every word. Hair samples, once dormant in evidence lockers, now illuminated by modern science, told a story invisible to the past. A single match, buried and overlooked for years, became the linchpin that cracked the case wide open, linking the accused to a scene he had thought forgotten, to a girl whose absence had haunted a town for generations. Jurors leaned forward, faces tense, absorbing the twists of fate and forensic breakthroughs that seemed almost cinematic, almost unreal. The man's alibi, meticulously rehearsed, fell apart under scrutiny, each lie exposed with relentless precision, revealing a pattern of deception, manipulation, and obsession. Friends of Emily recalled her last day with newfound clarity, details once dismissed as trivial now painted in stark relief. The glance she threw at a stranger, the hesitation at the bus stop, the uneasy feeling she had confided to her closest friend. Each anecdote was a thread in the tapestry of terror, a thread that finally wove a coherent narrative after 30 long years. Outside the courthouse, the community's reaction was electric, a mixture of shock, vindication, and an unsettling reminder that monsters could live among them unnoticed. The arrest had answered some questions, but left others festering like wounds yet to heal. How had he remained invisible for so long? How many corners of the town had held silent witnesses to his movements? The answers were partial, fragmentary, but they were enough to ignite conversations, to reopen memories, to cast a long shadow across everyday life. Journalists dug into the archives, resurrecting photographs, police notes, old broadcasts, searching for patterns, for any indication that someone might have seen the signs, that someone might have prevented decades of torment. They found inconsistencies in initial reports, minor discrepancies in witness statements, overlooked calls, misplaced records, all now illuminated under the harsh light of modern investigation. Social media, a phenomenon unimaginable in the 80s, erupted as stories were shared, theories debated, and opinions clashed, creating a digital echo chamber where the case was dissected over and over, every angle examined in painstaking detail. And yet, amidst the frenzy, a chilling realization persisted. Emily's life could never be restored. The justice, however long delayed, could only account for what had been done, not for what had been stolen. Detectives, both retired and active, reflected on the case with a mixture of pride and melancholy, proud that decades of determination had finally borne fruit, yet sorrowful for the years lost, for the girl who would never see adulthood, who would never know love or heartbreak or the ordinary. Triumphs of life. The accused remained silent in court. The layers of his past slowly peeled back by the relentless spotlight of modern forensic work, revealing a life structured around secrecy, control, and the meticulous covering of tracks. Forensic psychologists dissected his behavior, examining the mind that had orchestrated a disappearance with precision, the mind that had evaded detection through subtle manipulation, through blending seamlessly into a community that never suspected the evil among them. Conversations in local diners, once casual, now carried a low, tense undertone, as residents speculated about the unseen threads connecting people, events, and spaces, an awareness that the world they had known was never as innocent as it had seemed. The diaries and letters, revisited with a critical eye, were found to contain clues missed in haste, sentences that hinted at fear and foreknowledge, warnings encoded in the ordinary handwriting of a teenage girl too clever to fully expose the danger she sensed. And then the forensic breakthrough that would define the trial. Hair, fibers, trace DNA linking the accused to locations he claimed never to have been, a silent but undeniable fingerprint of guilt that science had preserved, waiting for the moment when technology and persistence would converge. Witnesses who had long ago doubted their own memories were vindicated, their recollections validated by incontrovertible evidence, a reminder of the fallibility of human perception, yet the enduring power of truth when given time to surface. In the courtroom, the narrative unfolded like a thriller. Timelines meticulously reconstructed, paths retraced, the final movements of Emily Sanderson's last day outlined with precision that both horrified and captivated. Each detail, from the angle of the streetlights to the texture of footprints in frost-covered soil, was laid bare, creating a vivid, almost unbearable picture of what had happened on that January night. And as the trial progressed, it became clear that this was more than a legal proceeding. It was a reckoning, a confrontation with decades of silence, with the community's collective memory of fear, loss, and unanswered questions. The town had carried this story in whispers, in sidelong glances, in the quiet moments of dread that accompanied dusk, And now the truth had erupted, undeniable and raw. Families of other missing children followed the case closely, drawing hope and dread in equal measure, recognizing the potential for closure, yet fearing the painful honesty of the revelation. Emily's story, though unique in its horror, resonated universally, a testament to the fragility of safety, the tenacity of evil, and the painstaking persistence required to confront it. And as the final arguments were presented, as lawyers recounted the evidence with methodical fervor, the emotional gravity of the moment weighed on everyone present. The community, once passive in its grief, now felt the weight of collective witnessing, of shared trauma finally articulated, and the echo of Emily's absence became a tangible force, pressing against the walls of the courthouse and the hearts of those who had waited decades for this reckoning. The trial was far from over, yet the first tremors of justice had struck deep, shaking foundations, revealing long-buried truths, and leaving everyone with the inescapable sense that even the coldest of cases could, with time and relentless effort, ignite into revelation. In quiet corners of Bakersfield, people paused, remembering the empty streets, the fleeting glimpses, the years of wondering, and felt a mix of vindication and unease, knowing that while the guilty were finally confronted, the void left by Emily's disappearance could never be filled. The story, long dormant, now surged with life, a narrative that would ripple outward through generations, a chilling reminder that absence leaves an indelible mark, and that truth, no matter how delayed, carries with it both closure and haunting. The night sky over Bakersfield seemed to hold its breath, as if the stars themselves were witnesses to the decades of unanswered questions that had haunted this town, each one a pinprick of light over streets that had once felt ordinary, now tinged with the memory of fear. Inside homes, residents whispered about the trial, recounting fragments of old stories, memories colliding with the revelations emerging in court. Emily Sanderson's name had become a symbol, her story a cautionary tale that stretched far beyond the walls of her house, beyond the frost-covered fields she once walked, and into the collective conscience of a community grappling with the idea that evil could dwell unnoticed among them. Detectives pored over new evidence with a meticulous intensity, the files that had once gathered dust now alive with data, charts, maps, and timelines that turned scattered fragments into a coherent sequence of events. Every intersection, every shadowed alley, every abandoned building took on renewed significance. They retraced the last known movements of Emily, reconstructing the steps she had taken on that winter night with an almost forensic obsession, mapping routes, analyzing light angles, and cross-referencing witness accounts to form a lattice of possibility that hadn't existed 30 years before. The accused, a man whose calm demeanor masked a calculated mind, sat in court, silent, absorbing the proceedings with a patience that unnerved even seasoned officers. Each piece of forensic proof, each matching hair or fiber, seemed to press down on him, an invisible weight that grew with every revelation. Outside the courthouse, murmurs swirled, strangers speculating, former classmates trying to reconcile the boy they knew in school with a man accused of a crime that had left a mark on generations. Forensic experts testified with unwavering precision, explaining complex DNA matches, trace evidence, and chemical analyses in language accessible yet chilling, translating science into a narrative of inevitability, a proof that crime, no matter how cleverly concealed, leaves a trail. The story of Emily's disappearance unfolded like a tapestry, each thread painstakingly examined and connected, revealing a pattern of stalking, observation, and predation that had been invisible to those who believed in ordinary life. Memories of neighbors, once dismissed as unreliable, became critical evidence. Recollections of lights in empty yards, footsteps in the night, and the faint rumble of engines on deserted streets gained a new weight when cross-referenced with technology that had been unimaginable in the 1980s. The diary, now digitized, revealed coded messages, entries that seemed trivial to a teenage mind but, under forensic linguistics, painted a picture of fear, intuition, and an unspoken knowledge of danger. Patterns of language, punctuation, and emphasis became clues, guiding investigators toward the truth hidden in plain sight. Friends recounted conversations long forgotten, the way Emily had nervously glanced over her shoulder, laughed off a warning, or paused in indecision. These anecdotes, once ephemeral, now contributed to a composite image of the night she disappeared, a snapshot of the tension that had suffused her life in the final days. Each retelling, each corroboration, acted as a link, binding together fragments of a puzzle that had remained unresolved for 3 decades. The town, initially resistant to the resurgence of the case, now hung on every update. Local cafes buzzed with speculation, print media revived archived stories, and even television reran segments, juxtaposing youthful photos of Emily with stark, contemporary images of the accused. The juxtaposition was surreal, a collision of past and present that made the horror more tangible. Investigators discovered subtle patterns in mundane locations. A convenience store where Emily had shopped, a park bench she often sat upon, the bus route she took, each became a critical node in the reconstruction of events, a revelation that the ordinary world she navigated had been permeated with surveillance and threat. The accused routine, seemingly banal, was dissected. Routes, habits, inconsistencies and alibis, prior minor offenses, and patterns of movement all converged into a narrative of premeditation. Psychological profiles, constructed with painstaking attention, illuminated motives, impulses, and manipulative behaviors, creating a portrait of someone who had existed among friends, neighbors, and colleagues while committing acts that would haunt a town for decades. Jurors, tasked with absorbing every nuance, every forensic detail, every emotional testimony, found themselves drawn into a story that was both factual and profoundly unsettling, a narrative of innocence stolen and evil hidden in plain sight. Witnesses who had once felt powerless found their voices magnified, contributing to a collective assertion of truth, a reclaiming of narrative that had been denied for decades. The courtroom became a crucible of emotion. Parents wept quietly, friends trembled, investigators shared a rare sense of vindication and sorrow intertwined, and the accused maintained an eerie stillness that belied the storm encircling him. And as evidence mounted, as timelines converged and forensic proofs intersected, the community felt an awakening, a recognition that closure, however partial, was within reach. Yet the sense of unease remained. How many other acts had gone unnoticed? How many lives intersected with shadows too long ignored? Even with the arrest, the echoes of Emily's disappearance resonated in empty streets, in the quiet corners of homes, and in memories of those who had once known her. The trial was not just a legal proceeding, but a communal reckoning, a confrontation with the invisible threads of danger that had woven through the fabric of ordinary life. Each testimony, each forensic revelation, each corroborated memory reinforced the understanding that time could delay justice but not deny it, that patience, persistence, and evolving technology could illuminate truths once buried beneath layers of uncertainty. The narrative, once dormant, surged forward with relentless momentum, carrying with it the weight of decades of speculation, sorrow, and fear. And yet, the final resolution remained tantalizingly incomplete. The story of Emily Sanderson, her disappearance, and the man who had evaded detection for so long was still unfolding, each new discovery opening further questions about the fragility of safety, the persistence of evil, and the endurance of hope amidst darkness. In quiet moments, townspeople revisited the landscapes of memory, the streets she vanished from, the frost-covered fields, the flickering lights, the unnoticed glances of strangers. These recollections were vivid and haunting, proof that even as the guilty were confronted, the psychological imprint of unresolved trauma lingered, a reminder that absence is an enduring presence, and that the reverberations of a single night could echo across decades, reshaping lives and communities alike. As Part 3 closes, the case stands at a precipice. Truth made manifest, yet still leaving behind the shadows of fear, wonder, and collective reflection on how ordinary life masks extraordinary danger. How a cold case, once dormant, can ignite the collective consciousness of an entire town, and how the pursuit of justice, relentless and unwavering, can finally transform decades of mystery into revelation, yet never fully erase the haunting that lingers in the hearts of those left behind. The chill of early morning clung to the courthouse steps as reporters jostled for position, cameras clicking, microphones thrust forward, every lens capturing the fragile tension between anticipation and dread. Inside, the atmosphere was electric, thick with the unsaid, every heartbeat echoing against walls that had borne witness to decades of silence. Detectives paced, reviewing notes, diagrams, timelines, their minds a whirlwind of forensic minutiae and human behavior, searching for the slightest inconsistency, the tiniest overlooked clue that might tighten the noose of evidence. Emily Sanderson's story, once relegated to dusty files and fading memories, surged into vivid relief, each detail now magnified, dissected, and reframed. Witnesses, hesitant at first, recounted their observations with newfound clarity. The glint of headlights down deserted lanes, footsteps echoing on frost-crusted sidewalks, a van idling where it had no business, a stranger's gaze lingering too long in a shop window. Every small observation, once ignored, became a pivotal piece of a puzzle, linking a pattern of predation across time and space, showing the accused not as an abstract figure, but as a man embedded in ordinary life while orchestrating acts of cruelty hidden in plain sight. Forensic evidence, once inert, now spoke with compelling clarity. Fibers, traced DNA, fingerprints, hair, all converging to create a narrative impossible to dismiss. Experts testified, describing the science with precision that turned abstract measurements into vivid, chilling images. The angle of a strand of hair, the composition of a fiber, the pattern of movement traced through a town that had assumed safety. The courtroom was hypnotized, caught between fascination and horror, as a life disrupted 30 years ago was reconstructed with a forensic clarity that made the terror feel immediate, present, palpable. Friends remembered Emily's final day in agonizing detail. The nervous glance she cast over her shoulder, the tension in her walk, the fleeting interaction that now seemed fraught with prescience. Every word, every action, every hesitation gained weight, forming a lattice of fear, intuition, and the unknowable dread she had sensed in her final hours. Outside, the town buzzed with the collective memory of the vanished girl. Conversations in cafes, homes, and grocery stores circled around her name, her life, the trial, and the man accused of erasing her presence from the world. The ordinary landscape, the park where she jogged, the corner store she frequented, the bus stop she waited at, transformed in a loci of suspense, proof that terror often hides within routine, within normalcy. Investigators followed hidden threads: a bank transaction, a misremembered stop, a misplaced call, patterns of movement that only decades later could be fully understood. The accused routines, once mundane, were now dissected, revealing moments of planning, evasion, and subtle manipulation that allowed him to remain undetected, invisible, a ghost threading through ordinary life without raising alarm. Psychological profiles painted a portrait of a mind adept at concealment, charming to outsiders, yet meticulously controlling, calculating, and predatory. Jurors absorbed the weight of this duality, the banality of daily life masking darkness, the ordinariness of a man capable of extraordinary cruelty, the intersection of opportunity and malevolence that had made Emily's disappearance possible. The community reacted with a mix of relief and lingering horror. Justice, long delayed, now unfolded in real time, but the emotional void left by decades of unanswered questions remained. Families who had once clung to hope now confronted the tangible reality of what had been taken, while others pondered how a single life, disrupted and extinguished, could resonate across generations. Technology illuminated shadows once impenetrable. Surveillance footage, grainy but telling, revealed subtle movements, gestures, and interactions previously invisible to human eyes. Cross-reference databases, once nascent, now detail the accused interactions, movements, and potential prior offenses, creating a timeline of chilling precision. Each revelation carried the weight of inevitability, a reminder that even the most carefully hidden crimes leave traces. The diary, scanned and analyzed digitally, revealed patterns of forewarning. Careful word choices, repeated mentions of feeling watched, cryptic warnings scribbled in margins. Experts trace connections between these passages and the accused known movements, forming a bridge between perception and reality, intuition and horror. The trial became both a reckoning and a revelation. The man seated before the court was no longer merely accused. He was the embodiment of years of unanswered questions, fear, and grief. Testimonies layered upon testimonies, weaving a narrative that was as much about the loss of innocence as it was about forensic triumph. Yet even as justice advanced, the community remained haunted. Streets that had once seemed familiar now carried the weight of history. Homes that had been sanctuaries felt tenuous, imbued with the awareness that evil can reside quietly in the ordinary, that safety is never absolute. Investigators and journalists alike revisited old reports, photographs, and witness statements. Minor details previously dismissed, a shadow in a photograph, a fleeting movement, an odd gesture, suddenly gained significance under the illumination of modern scrutiny. The web of evidence expanded, revealing subtle connections, patterns, and correlations that had gone unnoticed in 1988, forming a lattice of truth over decades of silence. Friends and family of Emily sat through testimony with hearts pounding, emotions a complex mixture of relief, grief, vindication, and unresolved sorrow. Memories of her laughter, her gestures, her daily life, contrasted sharply with the cold, clinical presentation of evidence, creating a tension that resonated deeply within the courtroom. Outside, the town held its breath as news spread. The accused movements, the forensic breakthroughs, the long-awaited confrontation with truth. Conversations resurfaced, old recollections revisited, speculation replaced by evidence, rumor replaced by testimony. The collective consciousness of Bakersfield alive with the simultaneous relief and shock of resolution. Yet, even in victory, the lingering question persisted. What the lost years, the stolen adolescence, the absence that shaped the lives of so many? Justice could account for guilt, assign responsibility, provide answers, but it could not restore what had been taken, could not reclaim time, could not resurrect a life extinguished. The narrative surged forward relentlessly, intertwining the past and present. The vanished girl, the community that had waited decades, the man finally confronted with consequence. Each moment of the trial heightened the tension, the suspense, the realization that while the case was decades old, its impact remained immediate, visceral, and enduring. And as the day drew to a close, the courtroom emptied slowly, the echoes of Emily's story lingering in the air, in conversations, in hearts. Bakersfield felt both closure and the weight of haunting, a town reminded that while justice can be delayed, the shadows of the past do not vanish. They merely wait, watching, lingering, and reminding all that absence is a presence, and memory is inescapable. The rain fell in relentless sheets over Bakersfield, streaking streetlights and leaving the asphalt glistening like a mirror for a town reflecting on decades of fear and uncertainty. Inside the courthouse, testimony continued, a cadence of revelations, each fact layered upon the next, each detail sharpening the image of what had unfolded on that fateful January night. Emily Sanderson's life, once ephemeral in memory, now materialized in vivid, almost unbearable clarity. The tilt of her head, The nervous way she adjusted her backpack, the subtle hesitation before stepping onto the empty street that would mark the last moments anyone would see her. Detectives described the painstaking reconstruction of her final movements. From the classroom where she laughed with friends, to the bus stop where the wind tugged at her hair, to the quiet streets she walked alone. Every step, once dismissed as ordinary, became a heartbeat in the timeline, a pulse in the narrative of fear and predation. The accused, seated in the defendant's chair, exhibited a calm that belied the weight pressing down upon him, an unnerving stillness that seemed almost rehearsed, as though he had waited decades for this moment, fully aware that the law had finally caught up. Experts demonstrated forensic matches with a precision that left jurors, families, and observers captivated. Hairs matched, fibers traced DNA linking him to locations he claimed never to have visited. Each piece of evidence was more than proof. It was a vivid stroke in the portrait of guilt, each fact resonating with the echoes of decades-long suspense. Outside, Bakersfield was electric with whispers. Conversations in diners, cafes, and homes traced the contours of fear long buried. "Do you remember that van? Didn't he live just down the street? How could we have missed it?" The town grappled with the tension between relief that justice had finally arrived and horror at the realization of how close evil had been to ordinary life for so long. The diary resurfaced, now digitized and dissected with linguistic precision, revealing subtle patterns of foreboding. Repeated phrases about being watched, cryptic references to danger, hints of an intuition the world had failed to recognize. Linguists, forensic analysts, and psychologists collaborated to unravel hidden meanings, tying them to the accused habits and movements with a painstaking attention to detail that transformed teenage intuition into undeniable evidence. Friends and neighbors recounted seemingly trivial interactions, each story now reframed as a clue. The glance down a shadowed alley, a hesitation at the corner store, the presence of an unfamiliar car lingering too long. What had once been ordinary, dismissed as nothing, became ominous in retrospect, threads in a dark tapestry long ignored. In court, the prosecution methodically reconstructed timelines, movements, and interactions with chilling precision. Every small act of preparation, every concealed presence, every deviation from routine formed a lattice of inevitability. The man had been there, he had watched, he had waited, and the world had been blind. Psychological profiles presented a portrait of meticulous calculation, a man adept at blending, charming enough to mask predation, patient enough to let the years pass unobserved, aware of the town's blind spots, and methodical enough to exploit them. Jurors absorbed each detail, their expressions taut with tension, aware that the story they were witnessing was both fact and horror intertwined. Outside, the community reacted in waves, shock, disbelief, a strange mixture of vindication and lingering dread. Bakersfield had carried Emily's absence for decades. Now the shadow had been illuminated, yet the illumination carried with it the memory of years lost, of innocence stolen, of time that could never be returned. Detectives revisited evidence that had once seemed trivial: faded fingerprints, hair clippings, obscure diary entries, inconsistencies in early witness statements. Technology had turned the once cold, inert fragments into a vivid narrative of action and intent, bridging the decades-long gap between disappearance and accountability. Friends of Emily recalled minutiae that had once seemed inconsequential: a laugh cut short, an uneasy glance, a subtle hesitation, the way her shoulders tensed when passing certain streets. Each memory became a vital thread in the tapestry of reconstruction, reinforcing the narrative of stalking, predation, and the eerie normalcy that had cloaked her abductor. The town, while attentive to the courtroom proceedings, simultaneously grappled with the realization that life's ordinary rhythm had been intertwined with shadows, that safety was often an illusion, that danger can reside quietly, unseen in the folds of daily life. Journalists combed old files, resurrecting photographs, local news reports, and even personal anecdotes, seeking context, connections, and patterns that had once been overlooked. What emerged was a chilling demonstration of how ordinary moments, when observed through the lens of hindsight and forensic analysis, revealed a trajectory of intent that had been invisible in real time. The trial, relentless in pace and exhaustive in detail, became a communal catharsis. Grief revisited, questions answered, yet simultaneously new layers of unease uncovered. The narrative shifted constantly, threading together the past and present, showing a town's collective memory, a girl's lost life, and the unfolding reckoning of a man finally confronted with consequence. Each revelation, DNA matches, forensic correlations, witness testimonies, acted as a thunderclap, reverberating through the courthouse, the town, and the consciousness of everyone who had lived in the shadow of Emily's disappearance. And yet, even as justice moved forward, the haunting remained. Streets once familiar felt alien. Familiar homes seemed infiltrated by memory, and every quiet corner seemed to echo with the footsteps of a girl long gone, but never forgotten. Emily's story, reconstructed in painstaking detail, highlighted the fragility of perception, the patience of predation, and the persistence of memory. The courtroom's rhythm mirrored the decades-long tension of the case, deliberate, methodical, yet electric with urgency. Each witness, each piece of evidence, each testimony contributed to a crescendo of revelation, underscoring the horrifying clarity with which one life had been stolen and the extraordinary effort required to finally illuminate the truth. The courtroom lights cast sharp shadows across the faces of jurors, witnesses, and the accused, illuminating lines etched by decades of tension, grief, and anticipation. Every expression a mirror of the complex tapestry woven by a single night 3 decades ago. Detectives recounted moments of painstaking reconstruction, the exact angle of streetlights reflecting off frost, the subtle impressions of footprints in hard soil, the location of discarded personal items long thought lost to time. Each detail carried a weight that seemed almost unbearable, transforming mundane objects into symbols of loss, markers of predation, and evidence of a meticulously concealed crime. Emily Sanderson's life, once a fading memory, surged into a vivid, almost tangible presence. The curve of her smile in old photographs, the nervous twirl of her hair, the faint shadow of worry in her eyes captured in snapshots that had once seemed ordinary. Friends testified, their voices trembling yet resolute, recounting fleeting interactions, minor hesitations, and glances over shoulders that now bore the chilling significance of premonition. Every anecdote, once dismissed as trivial, became a crucial puzzle piece, revealing a web of subtle threats and unrecognized danger. Outside, Bakersfield streets buzzed with quiet hysteria. Neighbors revisited memories of headlights on empty streets, footsteps echoing down deserted alleys, strangers lingering too long in doorways. The ordinary landscape of the town had become a stage for the extraordinary, the banal contours of daily life reframed through the lens of absence and revelation. Forensic evidence presented in court stunned all in attendance. Fibers, hair, trace DNA meticulously analyzed with modern techniques, linking the accused to locations and items thought untouched for decades. Experts illustrated the intricate web connecting Emily's movements to the man now facing justice, demonstrating an almost terrifying patience and precision that had allowed him to remain undetected for 30 years. Jurors leaned forward, spellbound and unsettled, grappling with the duality of human life, the familiarity of a community member juxtaposed with the horror of his hidden predation. The diary, re-examined with forensic linguistics, unveiled coded warnings, veiled intimations, and a subtle chronology of fear. Linguists highlighted the shifts in syntax, repetition of phrases, and emphasis that revealed an awareness of danger that authorities had once failed to recognize. Each page reinforced the narrative of stalking, observation, and silent menace, transforming adolescent intuition into undeniable evidence. Psychological experts painted a chilling portrait of the accused, a master of disguise, socially unremarkable, yet calculating, patient, and meticulous in exploiting gaps in observation and perception. Every habit, every routine, every seemingly minor interaction was part of a strategy that had allowed him to evade detection for decades. The prosecution walked the courtroom through timelines reconstructed from a combination of witness memory, forensic data, and digital enhancements of archival evidence. Street corners, bus stops, convenience stores, parks, all once ordinary locales, were now detailed nodes in a network of predation, a map of opportunity intersecting with malevolence. Every movement was charted, every deviation scrutinized, every prior misstep reconsidered in the context of new understanding. Friends and family of Emily sat in tense silence, reliving years of grief in a concentrated, almost unbearable form. The juxtaposition of forensic clarity and human emotion made the narrative simultaneously precise and hauntingly personal. A girl stolen, a town affected, a predator finally revealed. Outside, the community wrestled with the duality of relief and disquiet. Bakersfield had known Emily's absence as a shadow lingering over streets, homes, and hearts. Now the presence of justice illuminated the darkness, but could not erase memory or loss. Journalists combed old footage, rediscovered reports, and interviewed witnesses anew, piecing together a narrative that had evolved from rumor to fact, speculation to science, whispered memory to undeniable truth. Technology transformed what had been dormant clues into compelling proof. A flicker on old surveillance film, footprints digitized and measured, hair samples cross-referenced across databases that had not existed in 1988. The web of investigation now extended beyond the immediate case, connecting dots across time, space, and human behavior. The accused maintained a calculated stillness, an unsettling calm under the relentless scrutiny of court proceedings. His alibi, once rehearsed, unraveled under methodical questioning, revealing gaps and contradictions, the careful construction of decades exposed as a fragile facade. As each revelation unfolded, the town grappled with a renewed understanding. Danger had been closer than imagined. Evil had walked among them unnoticed, and yet the persistence of investigators had finally cast light on decades of darkness. Testimony revealed minute but vital details. The angle of a shadow, the sound of tires on icy streets, a partial recollection from a passerby that had been dismissed as inconsequential. When connected with modern forensic analysis, these fragments converged into a clear and terrifying narrative. Emily's friends recounted ordinary interactions imbued with retrospectively ominous significance. The hesitant pause before crossing a street, the fleeting glance at a parked van, the subtle tension in her posture when near certain locations. These vignettes, once overlooked, now formed an intricate map of stalking and manipulation, a testimony to the predator's patience and foresight. Community members, while relieved by the emergence of truth, wrestled with the notion that evil had been hidden in plain sight. Conversations surfaced about neighbors, acquaintances, and colleagues, pondering how ordinary life could conceal calculated malevolence, how observation and vigilance could be circumvented by someone attuned to the minutiae of a town's rhythm. The diary, forensic timelines, and witness testimony combined to form a narrative that left little room for doubt. The pattern of behavior was clear, the connections undeniable, and the accused's culpability starkly illuminated. Yet the town remained haunted, streets familiar, yet haunted by memory, homes ordinary, yet filled with echoes of a vanished girl. Days lived in routine, yet overlaid with the awareness of past threat. As Part 6 closes, the case presses forward into its next stage, justice confronting absence, fact confronting memory, and a community reconciling decades of loss with the sudden arrival of truth. The echoes of Emily Sanderson's life, vanished but vividly remembered, persist in conversations, in streets, in quiet moments of reflection, reminding all that even after 30 years, the resonance of fear, grief, and revelation endures, and that the line between ordinary and extraordinary, safety and danger, is often thinner than anyone dares to imagine. The rain had subsided, leaving the streets slick and reflective, as if the town itself mirrored the layers of history, grief, and revelation that had accumulated over 3 decades. Inside the courthouse, tension hung like a living thing, pressing down on everyone present, a reminder that 30 years of silence and uncertainty were finally being confronted in stark daylight. Detectives revisited old leads, each one painstakingly reevaluated with modern technology, cross-referencing witness statements, forensic evidence, and long-forgotten tips that had once been dismissed. Every fragment, no matter how minor, was now a potential linchpin in a narrative that had remained unresolved for far too long. Emily Sanderson's presence permeated every detail of the courtroom. The curve of her smile captured in photographs, the nervous energy recorded in her diary, the anecdotes of friends recalling the subtle tension in her movements. Each memory became an essential element in reconstructing the life of a girl whose ordinary days had been shattered by extraordinary evil. The accused, seated before the court, displayed a calm that unnerved observers, a quiet confidence that belied the mounting weight of evidence against him. Every fiber, hair, and trace DNA meticulously matched to him. Every timeline reconstructed from disparate pieces of data, every witness testimony corroborating his presence, converged to form an overwhelming picture of guilt. Jurors leaned forward, their faces taut with the gravity of the revelations, absorbing the slow, inexorable logic of evidence and testimony that transformed decades of rumor into undeniable fact. Outside, Bakersfield streets vibrated with the collective consciousness of a community both relieved and unsettled. Conversations buzzed in diners and cafes. Recollections of the past, questions about what had been missed, speculation about how such evil could have remained hidden in plain sight. The ordinary landscape of the town, the quiet streets, the schoolyard, the bus stop, was now overlaid with a tension born from hindsight. Each location transformed into a symbol of vulnerability, each ordinary moment reframed through the lens of terror. Forensic experts detailed the extraordinary patience and calculation required to evade detection for so long. Each habit, each movement, each subtle interaction with the world was part of a meticulous plan, revealing the accused not only as guilty, but as extraordinarily cunning, capable of navigating a town full of observers while remaining invisible. Witnesses testified with a renewed clarity, recounting fleeting moments and minor interactions that had once seemed inconsequential but now, through the lens of forensic precision, revealed a pattern of stalking, manipulation, and predation. Friends remembered Emily's laughter cut short, her nervous glances, the small signs of unease she had displayed, all forming a mosaic of fear and foreboding. The diary resurfaced in testimony, each page analyzed with painstaking attention to syntax, phrasing, and subtle cues that had previously been overlooked. Patterns of repetition, emphasis, and coded warning revealed the extent of Emily's awareness of danger. Her intuition articulated in seemingly trivial adolescent entries that now carried profound significance. Investigators highlighted connections between these entries and physical evidence. The timing of footsteps, locations of abandoned vehicles, the trajectory of movements across town, all forming an intricate map of predation spanning decades. The prosecution laid out the narrative with precision, how ordinary streets, shops, and parks had been transformed into arenas of unseen threat, how subtle observations were leveraged into control, and how the accused patience and manipulation had allowed him to remain hidden in plain sight. Each point was reinforced by a combination of forensic proof, eyewitness testimony, and psychological profiling, creating a multi-layered portrait of crime, calculation, and consequence. Friends and family of Emily relived memories in vivid, almost unbearable detail, the emotional weight of decades of absence pressing down as testimony brought clarity to what had been incomprehensible for years. Jurors absorbed both the human and forensic elements of the case, understanding the depth of loss, the intricacy of investigation, and the meticulous method by which evil had operated undetected. Outside, the town wrestled with a dual reality: relief at the emergence of truth and the enduring awareness that ordinary life had been infiltrated by malevolence. Streets, homes, and familiar spaces were now viewed with a heightened perception of potential danger, each corner a reminder of what had once gone unnoticed. The trial also revealed subtle missteps and oversights from the original investigation, showing how human error, technological limitations, and assumptions about innocence allowed the case to remain unsolved for so long. Modern techniques, persistence, and cross-referencing of evidence finally illuminated the truth, highlighting the interplay between time, memory, and the evolution of investigative tools. As testimony unfolded, the narrative of Emily's final hours emerged with devastating clarity. Her cautious movements, her fleeting awareness of being watched, the moments of hesitation that signaled fear, and the gradual unfolding of events that led to her disappearance. The accused presence intersected with these moments in ways previously invisible, and forensic reconstruction made the invisible visible, a terrifying testament to patience, calculation, and manipulation. Psychological experts describe the mind behind the crime: a person adept at blending into society, masking malevolence with ordinariness, anticipating observation, exploiting routines, and manipulating perceptions. The portrait was chillingly clear. Guilt was not accidental or impulsive, but deliberate, sustained, and methodical. Jurors and observers alike were captivated, simultaneously horrified and riveted by the intricate web of evidence, memory, and behavior. Outside the courtroom, Bakersfield's residents processed layers of emotion: vindication, grief, shock, and the subtle, persistent recognition that absence leaves an indelible mark. Streets and familiar places were re-examined through memory, conversations revisited, the ordinary overlaid with shadows of the extraordinary. Emily's story, reconstructed from fragments and forensic breakthroughs, served as both a cautionary tale and a testament to perseverance. That even after decades, evidence can surface, justice can be pursued, and truth, however delayed, can be revealed. The trial pressed onward, each testimony a thread in a vast tapestry connecting past and present, fear and revelation, loss and accountability. Every witness, every forensic expert, every recovered memory contributed to the relentless flow of narrative, keeping attention fixed, emotions taut, and minds engaged in the unbroken cadence of truth. And yet, even as clarity emerged, the haunting remained. Streets once ordinary were imbued with memory. Quiet homes echoed with recollection, and the shadow of absence lingered like a persistent whisper, a reminder that even when justice arrives, loss remains, memory endures, and the resonance of a vanished life continues to shape the community that survived in its wake. The courtroom lights flickered slightly as the late afternoon sun struggled through streaked windows, casting long shadows across the worn wooden benches and polished floors, a visual echo of the decades that had passed since Emily Sanderson vanished. Detectives reviewed evidence one last time before presenting the next wave of testimony. Microfibers analyzed for composition, footprints digitally enhanced to reveal precise direction, and fragments of hair finally linked conclusively to the accused. Each item, once inert, now spoke volumes, narrating a story of observation, patience, and calculated cruelty that had eluded detection for 30 years. Emily's friends recounted her last day with painstaking detail, their voices trembling, hearts heavy with memories sharpened by decades of unanswered questions. They described her laughter cut short by unease, her habitual glances over her shoulder, the subtle signs of tension that, in hindsight, painted a chilling picture of awareness and fear. The courtroom held its collective breath as the prosecution meticulously mapped her final movements, connecting seemingly ordinary locations, a bus stop, a park, a convenience store, to the trajectory of predation meticulously constructed by the accused. Jurors leaned forward, absorbing timelines, diagrams, and photographs, the narrative rendered in stark clarity. Outside, Bakersfield was alive with tension, the streets echoing with whispers, conversations bouncing from cafe tables to grocery store aisles, neighbors sharing recollections once considered irrelevant, now recontextualized as critical evidence. The ordinary townscape, the lamppost where Emily waited for a bus, the corner where a van had idled for hours, had transformed into a theater of terror, each detail a testament to the precision and patience of the predator who had lurked unnoticed among them. Forensic experts walked the court through the minutiae of investigation. Trace DNA extracted from long-preserved samples, fibers cross-referenced with previously overlooked sources, and angles of light analyzed to determine sight lines and visibility. Each fact, technical yet vividly rendered, deepened the horror of realization. The crime had been carefully orchestrated, executed with foresight, and left traces that could only now be interpreted with modern technology. Witnesses who had once doubted their memories now felt validation as their recollections were corroborated by physical evidence. Every fleeting interaction, the stranger in the corner of a classroom, a van parked too long near a bus stop, an unexplained shadow on the sidewalk, suddenly held significance, forming a lattice of observation, fear, and manipulation that connected Emily's last hours to the accused movements with irrefutable clarity. The accused maintained a calm detachment, a stillness that unnerved observers, each revelation a hammer striking against the carefully constructed facade of innocence he had maintained for decades. Psychological profiles revealed a chilling duality, a man adept at blending seamlessly into ordinary life, while simultaneously orchestrating acts of predation with meticulous care and patience, anticipating observation, manipulating perception, and exploiting ordinary routines to evade detection. The courtroom absorbed this tension, the interplay of evidence, memory, and psychology forming a compelling narrative that was as terrifying as it was precise. Families of Emily, the friends, the community, all felt a mixture of vindication, grief, and persistent unease. The trial was not just legal. It was a reckoning with decades of absence, the haunting presence of loss, and the revelation that ordinary life can conceal extraordinary malevolence. Journalists pored over old footage, rediscovered police reports, and interviewed witnesses anew, framing a narrative that bridged the past and present, speculation and science, rumor and evidence. The town itself became a character in the narrative, streets and corners imbued with memory, every familiar location layered with tension, every ordinary interaction reframed through the lens of hindsight. The diary, carefully digitized and analyzed with forensic linguistics, revealed patterns that had once been invisible. Repeated phrases signaling fear, subtle cues indicating awareness of danger, and entries that mapped emotional intuition into the tangible evidence that investigators now wielded. Investigators traced these psychological breadcrumbs alongside physical evidence, reconstructing Emily's final hours with painstaking precision. Each step, pause, glance, and hesitation recorded, analyzed, and connected to the predator's methodical path. Outside, the community struggled with dual emotions, relief that truth had emerged, yet a profound unease at realizing how close danger had once lingered, invisible but pervasive. The ordinary streets, parks, and homes of Bakersfield were now overlaid with shadows of memory, awareness, and caution. The narrative of Emily's disappearance, reconstructed through decades of persistence, forensic breakthroughs, and human testimony, revealed not only the mechanics of the crime, but also the enduring impact on an entire community. The suspended grief, the whispered questions, the long shadows cast by absence. Testimony continued, layering human memory over forensic certainty, creating a rich, complex tapestry of events that merged past and present. Witness recollections, once ephemeral, were validated by technological analysis. Photographs were re-examined to reveal subtle evidence. Archived reports were cross-referenced to illuminate overlooked connections. Each revelation intensified the courtroom atmosphere, each detail driving home the painstakingly constructed story of predation, evasion, and eventual accountability. And yet, even as the case moved inexorably toward resolution, the haunting persisted. Streets that had once been ordinary felt strange. Familiar homes carried echoes of absent laughter. Everyday routines seemed fragile in retrospect, overlaid with the awareness of what had occurred unseen. Emily Sanderson's story, though finally illuminated, remained a lasting imprint on the town's collective consciousness, proof that absence leaves a presence, that memory shapes reality, and that justice, no matter how delayed, cannot erase the resonance of loss. As Part 8 closes, the trial presses onward, unraveling decades of mystery, threading together memory and evidence, fear and revelation, and leaving the community suspended between relief, grief, and the enduring awareness that the shadow of the past remains alive, shaping perception, conversation, and consciousness, even as truth asserts itself with relentless force. The courtroom seemed to vibrate with the weight of decades, the walls echoing with whispers, memories, and the silent anticipation of revelation. Every gaze was fixed, every heartbeat synchronized with the cadence of testimony, as investigators, witnesses, and experts unraveled the tangled web of Emily Sanderson's disappearance. The accused sat with measured composure, his calmness a stark contrast to the mounting pressure of evidence. Each piece meticulously assembled, each timeline carefully reconstructed to illuminate a single, inexorable truth. The prosecution methodically displayed the network of connections, streets Emily had traversed, places she had paused, encounters that had once seemed trivial, all aligned now with patterns of predation revealed through modern forensic technology. Detectives presented digital reconstructions, showing subtle movements, line-of-sight angles, and interactions that had eluded notice in the 1980s, each frame a chilling testament to observation, patience, and calculated malevolence. Emily's diary resurfaced in testimony, each entry now read with forensic precision. The language, once seemingly ordinary teenage reflection, was revealed to contain subtle signs of awareness, fear, and intuition, a map of psychological breadcrumbs leading toward the accused. Linguists highlighted patterns in word choice, punctuation, and emphasis that, combined with physical evidence, formed a powerful chain of inference connecting Emily's perceptions to the man finally brought to justice. Outside, Bakersfield streets seemed suspended in memory. Conversations in cafes, homes, and shops revisited the ordinary details of daily life. The bus stop where Emily waited, the park bench where she lingered, the street corner with an idling van. Each location, once banal, now carried the weight of fear and revelation, transforming the town itself into a canvas illustrating decades of evasion and predation. Forensic experts explained the painstaking analysis of microfibers, trace DNA, and fingerprints, demonstrating how fragments overlooked for decades could now definitively place the accused at critical locations. The technical precision of these findings, conveyed in stark, vivid language, added gravity to the narrative. Invisibility, patience, and meticulous planning had allowed a predator to navigate ordinary life while leaving imperceptible traces that, 30 years later, formed an undeniable portrait of guilt. Friends and family recounted Emily's last days with piercing detail. The nervous glances, subtle hesitations, and fleeting moments of unease, once trivial, now revealed a tapestry of intuition and fear, signs of a life shadowed by danger. Each recollection threaded seamlessly into timelines reconstructed from forensic evidence, transforming memory into corroborated fact. Jurors absorbed the dual narrative of human experience and scientific evidence, realizing the enormity of patience, calculation, and courage required to finally illuminate what had been obscured for decades. The accused's calm demeanor remained, unsettling observers as each revelation unfolded. His previous alibis were methodically dismantled through cross-referencing witness testimony, digital enhancement of archival evidence, and the meticulous mapping of his routines over decades. Each contradiction, each gap, each inconsistency was laid bare, revealing the careful architecture of evasion, a facade now crumbling under relentless scrutiny. Investigators detailed the subtle manipulations, the exploitation of ordinary routines, and the patience required to remain unseen, transforming the man from an abstract figure into a vividly real predator, blending seamlessly into a community that had unknowingly harbored him. Outside, Bakersfield wrestled with the emotional aftermath. Relief that truth had emerged mingled with the enduring awareness of proximity to danger, the unsettling realization that evil had existed unnoticed in plain sight. Conversations revisited old memories. Neighbors reflected on past observations. And ordinary streets became imbued with the residual tension of decades-long suspense. The diary, forensic evidence, and witness accounts converged to illustrate a narrative of stalking, manipulation, and predation. Each fragment of information, once dismissed, now aligned with chilling clarity. The trajectory of Emily's final hours, the calculated steps of her abductor, and the culmination of decades-long investigation revealed a harrowing but unavoidable truth. Psychological profiles described the accused as socially unremarkable yet deeply calculating, able to navigate community life while orchestrating acts of predation unnoticed, exploiting patterns of observation, trust, and routine. This duality, the ordinary man and the predator, struck at the heart of the town's collective consciousness, creating both horror and fascination. The trial's rhythm pressed on, alternating between testimony, forensic exposition, and the narrative of human memory, weaving together a complex tapestry that merged the past with present clarity. Each detail sharpened the picture. Streets, classrooms, parks, and homes transformed into nodes of observation and opportunity, each action contextualized within a meticulous, decades-long strategy. Friends and family of Emily experienced an emotional onslaught, their grief compounded by vivid reconstructions, yet tempered by the satisfaction of eventual truth. Outside, Bakersfield absorbed the unfolding narrative, residents reevaluating streets and routines, the ordinary overlaid with subtle shadows of awareness, memory, and caution. Technology illuminated connections previously invisible. Enhanced photographs, digital timelines, and cross-reference databases revealed patterns of movement and presence that reinforced decades of investigative persistence. Each revelation acted as both closure and reminder. That absence leaves an indelible imprint, that loss endures, and that the pursuit of justice, relentless and unwavering, can finally uncover truth. And as Part 9 closes, the courtroom is a crucible of emotion, science, and memory. The town is suspended between relief and haunting awareness. Emily Sanderson's life, reconstructed from fragments, testimony, and forensic clarity, reverberates across time, reminding all that justice may be delayed, absence may linger, but truth, once revealed, imprints itself indelibly on both hearts and streets, shaping perception, memory, and the collective consciousness of a community forever touched by one girl's vanished life. The courtroom was suffused with a tense, almost electric anticipation. Each breath, each shuffle of papers, each creak of floorboards amplifying the weight of decades-long suspense. Detectives revisited every detail with relentless scrutiny, showing jurors how subtle patterns of movement, behavior, and timing finally revealed the predator hiding in plain sight. Each step Emily Sanderson had taken, each fleeting glance, each hesitant pause, now mapped precisely against the accused's meticulously calculated routines. Photographs of streets she had crossed were enhanced and annotated, the shadows of the past laid bare in sharp contrast, revealing intersections of opportunity, observation, and intent. Friends and family recounted their memories with agonizing clarity. The nervous energy in her movements, the subtle hesitations that once seemed ordinary, the fleeting interactions with strangers, all forming a tapestry of intuition and foreboding that had been tragically overlooked. The prosecution drew connections between these recollections and physical evidence. Traced DNA, fibers, footprints, surveillance footage long considered inconclusive. Each piece converged into a single narrative of predation, patient evasion, and manipulation spanning decades, illuminating the man who had so carefully concealed his presence. The accused remained unerringly calm, seated in a chair with a poised detachment, even as forensic analysts, investigators, and witnesses meticulously dismantled every claim, exposing contradictions, inconsistencies, and gaps that had long masked his culpability. Psychological experts painted a chilling portrait, a man capable of blending seamlessly into ordinary life, concealing calculated malevolence behind charm, patience, and careful observation. His ability to exploit ordinary routines, anticipate scrutiny, and manipulate perception made him both elusive and terrifyingly precise. The diary, digitized and linguistically analyzed, revealed subtle patterns, repeated phrases, and coded warnings that had once gone unnoticed. Experts demonstrated how these entries reflected Emily's awareness of danger, her instinctive observations of threat, and her nuanced understanding of risk. What had once seemed adolescent reflection now became a roadmap of fear, awareness, and unheeded warnings, forming a bridge between memory and evidence. Outside, Bakersfield simmered with collective anticipation. The streets, homes, and parks of the town carried the weight of memory, whispers tracing past observations and unremarked anomalies. The idling van, the shadowed alley, the stranger's gaze lingering longer than it should. Ordinary life was now reframed through the lens of hindsight. The town itself, a silent witness to the orchestration of decades of evasion and predation. Investigators demonstrated the precision of forensic reconstruction, revealing how each microtrace, each fiber, each angle of observation contributed to a comprehensive picture of guilt. What had once been a cold, inert fragment now spoke with vivid authority, connecting locations, timelines, and actions to a man who had hidden in plain sight. Jurors, witnesses, and observers absorbed the rhythm of testimony, the interplay between scientific evidence and human recollection, forming a narrative simultaneously compelling, terrifying, and irrevocably precise. Friends recounted ordinary interactions imbued with now obvious significance. Hesitant glances, minor interruptions in routine, gestures of unease, each one forming a pattern of predation, observation, and psychological manipulation. Each detail resonated, reinforcing the evidence with visceral human context. The town felt the echo of absence acutely. Conversations in diners, homes, and workplaces revisited seemingly trivial moments, now understood as missed warnings, fragments of insight into a crime concealed by patience and ordinary appearances. Streets became palimpsests, layered with memory and revelation, the familiar overlaid with subtle unease. The trial's cadence was relentless. Each testimony, each forensic demonstration, each recollection weaving together a tapestry of suspense, clarity, and horror. Photographs, digital reconstructions, and cross-reference databases illustrated patterns that had previously been invisible, transforming fragments of memory and material evidence into an unbroken chain of culpability. Witnesses corroborated each movement, minor interactions, and observations, connecting human memory to forensic certainty, revealing a predator's presence previously hidden by time, oversight, and circumstance. The accused, even as his carefully constructed alibis unraveled, displayed an unnerving composure, an almost clinical detachment that contrasted sharply with the emotional intensity of testimony, images, and evidence around him. His actions, once obscure and undetected, were now mapped with precision. The patient surveillance, the subtle manipulations, the exploitation of ordinary routines, all laid bare. Psychological profiles illuminated the depth of calculation, patience, and foresight that enabled such prolonged evasion, a methodical orchestration that made the crime as horrifying as it was comprehensible. Emily's friends and family experienced a simultaneous release and renewal of grief. Decades of uncertainty distilled into a sequence of revelations, confirmation of suspicions long harbored, and the final recognition of the predator who had stolen her life. Bakersfield's collective consciousness absorbed the unfolding narrative, a mixture of relief, grief, shock, and lingering awareness of vulnerability. Streets, parks, and homes were no longer simply familiar. They were imprinted with memory, reflection, and a haunting resonance of absence. The diary, forensic reconstruction, and eyewitness accounts converged to illustrate a narrative of stalking, evasion, and predation. Each piece of information, once overlooked, now aligned with terrifying clarity, illuminating Emily's final hours, the meticulous orchestration of the accused, and the tireless persistence of investigators who refused to let decades of silence remain unchallenged. And as Part 10 draws to a close, the courtroom holds its collective breath, the weight of memory, evidence, and emotion pressing on everyone present. Emily Sanderson's story, reconstructed in vivid detail, resonates beyond the trial, a reminder of absence, loss, and enduring vigilance, a testament to the persistence of justice, and a chilling proof that ordinary life can conceal extraordinary darkness, waiting patiently until the truth emerges to illuminate every shadow. The final day of the trial descended like a heavy storm, courtroom air thick with anticipation, the weight of 30 years pressing on every seat, every witness, every gaze. Detectives, their eyes sharp and voices steady, recounted the culmination of painstaking investigation. Every fragment of evidence meticulously traced, every discrepancy resolved, every clue linked to a narrative of deliberate, patient cruelty. The accused sat in unnerving composure, an almost statuesque calm confronting the relentless march of truth. Witnesses were called one last time, their voices trembling yet resolute, recounting final observations, subtle interactions, and faint memories that had crystallized into undeniable proof. The diaries were displayed again, entries analyzed with forensic precision, the inked words of a teenage girl revealing awareness, fear, and subtle signals of danger previously unreadable, now forming a bridge between intuition and evidence. Jurors absorbed the narrative in tense silence. Each new piece of evidence, each corroborated memory, each forensic breakthrough tightening the inexorable chain of accountability. Outside, Bakersfield streets were quiet yet electric, as if the town itself had held its breath for this decisive moment. Conversations bubbled in hushed tones, neighbors piecing together fragments of memory, recalling shadows, vehicles, gestures, and streets now imbued with the clarity of hindsight. The trial reconstructed Emily Sanderson's final hours with chilling exactitude. Her cautious steps, hesitant glances, the subtle body language of intuition, all intersecting with the calculated presence of a man whose patience and foresight had kept him invisible for decades. Each element of the narrative was painstakingly aligned, forensic evidence corroborating human memory, timelines merged with digital reconstruction, and witness testimonies reinforcing physical proof. The courtroom seemed to hum with tension, each revelation a hammer, striking the fragile veneer of innocence the accused had maintained for 30 years. Psychological analyses revealed a predator both ordinary and extraordinary, socially unremarkable, able to blend seamlessly into the community, yet calculating, patient, and methodical in exploiting routine, observation, and trust. His duality, a familiar neighbor masking a relentless predator, struck at the collective consciousness, blending horror with fascination. Friends and family of Emily endured a cathartic barrage of memory and clarity. Grief crystallized, long-standing questions answered, and the final recognition of the man who had stolen her life. Relief, sorrow, and lingering dread wove together, creating a complex emotional tapestry that mirrored the courtroom's own intensity. Forensic evidence was presented with vivid clarity. Trace DNA, fibers, footprints, and surveillance footage once deemed inconclusive, now woven into an irrefutable portrait of guilt. Each fragment, once inert, had been transformed by technology, diligence, and persistence into an articulate narrative of predation, patient evasion, and criminal foresight. The prosecution's closing argument drew together decades of pain, investigation, and discovery, emphasizing the unbroken chain of evidence, the precision of reconstruction, and the inescapable reality of the accused's culpability. Jurors were left to reconcile human memory, forensic certainty, and psychological insight, the weight of decades pressing upon them as they prepared to deliver judgment. Outside the courthouse, the town reflected collectively on the long shadow of absence. Streets once ordinary were now laden with memory and awareness. Conversations revisiting overlooked details, and homes carrying echoes of a vanished life. Bakersfield's collective consciousness had been irrevocably shaped by Emily's disappearance and the painstaking emergence of truth. As verdicts were read, a palpable tension swept the courtroom and town alike, the culmination of decades of uncertainty, investigation, and suspense now distilled into definitive resolution. Relief mingled with the somber recognition of loss, and the echo of absence resonated through streets, homes, and hearts. Emily Sanderson's story, reconstructed in painstaking detail, had emerged from the shadows, illuminating the persistence of evil, the power of human memory, and the relentless pursuit of justice. The town, though scarred by decades of unanswered questions, felt the undeniable presence of truth, the reassurance that absence, though enduring, could finally be met with accountability. And as the courtroom emptied and night descended over Bakersfield, a lingering awareness remained. Streets would never feel entirely ordinary. Homes would carry memory and shadow, and every quiet corner might whisper the lessons of patience, vigilance, and the persistence of justice. Yet within that haunting awareness was also a measure of closure, a sense that the long-delayed truth had finally emerged, exposing darkness, honoring the vanished, and reminding the world that no matter how deep the silence, no matter how cold the case, the light of justice eventually finds its way, illuminating every hidden corner, unearthing every secret, and leaving an indelible mark on both hearts and history.